Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something I think, well, nearly every family eventually faces when caring for older loved ones.
Hmm.
We're diving into what our sources call behavioral resistance. And right away, we need to get past that word stubbornness.
Exactly. Let's retire that word right now. It's not helpful.
Not at all.
When we talk about behavioral resistance, we're looking at the outward behavior, the no, the pushing back, the avoidance, but understanding it as really an internal process.
Okay.
It often comes from this really deep need to hold on to control, dignity, identity.
So, our mission today, it seems, is to stop just reacting to that no.
Yes, stop reacting, start analyzing why it's happening. We've got these great sources, lots of behavioral analysis, case studies. The goal is to shift things.
Shift from what? Conflict to collaboration.
Precisely. From conflict to collaboration.
And everyone listening, you know this feeling, right? That friction. The sources paint such vivid pictures. Mrs. T, for instance. Her daughter reaches for the grocery bags, and she just bats her hand away. I've got it, even when she's clearly struggling.
Or Mr. K. His daughter visits, checks the fridge, empty again, despite promising he'd shop. And he just, waves it off. I'm fine.
Yeah, and as a caregiver, that's terrifying sometimes. You see the risk.
It's incredibly frustrating. You see the need. They don't seem to. But we need to reframe it analytically. That resistance, that behavior, it's often a system trying desperately to protect something fundamental.
Like what?
Independence, routine, identity. We've to decode what they're trying to preserve, not just what they seem to be rejecting.
Okay, preservation, not just rejection. That feels like a really important distinction.
It is.
So if it's about preservation, it's not actually about the groceries, is it? Or the doctor's appointment itself?
Rarely. It's about the meaning behind the request. Think about the psychological cost. Asking someone to accept help often feels like asking them to admit, I can't do this anymore like I used to.
And that's a huge admission.
It's a painful acknowledgement of change, of loss. They might not be ready for that, so they fight the implication, maybe more than the task.
The sources dig into some key drivers here. Number one, that huge feeling of loss of control.
Yes, that's massive. Accepting help can feel like surrendering independence.
And then navigating the shifting boundaries of aging, just figuring out what they can still do.
Right, and routine disruption, new people, new ways of doing things, it feels intrusive.
But the part that really jumped out at me was this idea of emotional memory. It's not just about wanting control now, it's like past experiences are bleeding into the present.
Exactly that. Emotional memory is often the hidden trigger. Let's take Mrs. T again. Her daughter says, let me help, meaning well. But for Mrs. T, maybe those words instantly transport her back to recovering from surgery years ago, a time when everyone made decisions for her, when she felt completely powerless.
So the current offer of help taps into that old feeling of being controlled.
Precisely. That history fuels her intense reaction today to what seems like a simple offer.
That reframes it completely. It's not just being difficult. It's a protective reflex based on past trauma almost.
It can be. And with Mr. K, the sources mention he's a veteran. For him, that identity is deeply tied to self-reliance, independence.
So accepting help feels
Like surrendering a core part of who he is. It challenges his self-perception at a fundamental level.
okay. So when we as caregivers or family members see that friction, that refusal,
Yeah.
we need to pause.
Pause and reframe. To us, it looks like refusal. But through their eyes, through that behavioral and emotional lens, it often feels like preservation.
They're trying to hold on to the last bits of autonomy they feel they have.
Exactly. Preserving what they can protect.
Okay, so accepting it's about preservation is one thing, but how do we move from just understanding to actually doing something helpful? How do we decode it scientifically?
This is where the sources bring in a really useful tool, the behavioral lens.
Applied behavior analysis or ABA?
That's right. Now, ABA gets talked about in lots of contexts, maybe child development. But its core idea is simple and powerful for any behavior. You observe what happens before, during, and after the behavior occurs.
The ABCs.
ABCs. It helps take the emotion out of it, turns it into data we can work with.
Okay, so A is antecedent. What happens right before the no, the trigger?
Yes. And the trigger, the antecedent, isn't always just someone asking a question. It can be more subtle.
Like what?
It could be the time of day. Maybe resistance is always higher and the evening fatigue sets in. Or the environment, a noisy room, might make someone feel overwhelmed and more likely to refuse.
Okay, so identifying that antecedent is key because maybe you can change the trigger itself.
Exactly. Sometimes you can avoid the confrontation altogether if you understand the trigger.
Then B is behavior. That's the refusal itself, saying no, turning away, changing the subject, whatever it looks like.
Right. And then C, consequence. What happens immediately after the refusal? And this is where caregivers often get caught in the loop without realizing it.
Because the consequence is what reinforces the behavior, makes it more likely to happen again.
Precisely. The consequence is what the person gets out of the behavior.
Okay, this is where I think it gets tricky. Because you're trying to help, right? Your intentions are good, but you might accidentally be teaching them to resist more.
It happens all the time. It's so hard to see when you're in it because you're acting out of love, out of concern. But behaviorally, we have to ask, what function does the no serve? What does the person gain from it?
Let's use those examples from the sources again. They really clarified this loop for me. Mrs. T refusing help with groceries.
Okay, so Mrs. T refuses. What does her daughter do? Understandably, she doesn't just walk away. She might try gentle persuasion, maybe some comforting words. Oh, Mom, let me just take the heavy ones. Maybe uses humor.
Right, trying to connect, ease the tension.
But what's the result for Mrs. T? The no reliably leads to focused, one-on-one attention. Positive engagement, even if it's persuasive. The refusal gets reinforced by attention.
Wow. So the very act of trying to coax her, comfort her, it inadvertently taught her that saying no was a good way to get that connection.
It can become the quickest route to sustained personal interaction. That's a tough realization.
Yeah, really tough. Okay, now contrast that with Mr. K. He refuses help, say, with making a doctor's appointment.
Right. His daughter might get frustrated, maybe argue a bit, but often the sources suggest she might eventually withdraw, say, fine, Dad, but you really need to see the doctor, and then lets it drop for the moment.
So he gets out of doing the thing he didn't want to do.
Exactly. His refusal is reinforced by avoidance. He successfully avoids the unwanted task or assistance, protecting his immediate sense of independence. The no worked.
So it strengthens that pathway. If I refuse, I can maintain control or avoid this unpleasant thing.
The behavior loop gets stronger.
So the real insight isn't just seeing the refusal, it's digging into the purpose. What consequence is that behavior achieving for that person?
That's the core of it.
And once we understand that purpose, whether it's getting attention or avoiding something, then we can think about building better systems. Systems that meet that underlying need without triggering the resistance.
Exactly. And that brings us to, okay, how do we actually shift the pattern? How do we move towards collaborative support?
Right. The practical strategies.
And the goal here, let's be really clear, based on these sources, it's not about forcing them to accept help. It's not about winning the argument.
Okay, what is it about then?
It's about making help feel safe, making it feel collaborative. It's about finding ways to support their safety while preserving their autonomy.
So they still feel in control, even while accepting support.
Yes, that perceived control is crucial.
So what are some of those specific strategies the sources mention? How can caregivers actually do this?
Well, the first one, maybe the most powerful, is offering choices. Real choices, structured choices.
Give me an example.
Instead of saying, we need to sort your pills now, you offer, would you prefer to sort your medication now, or should we do it right after lunch?
Ah, so the task still happens, the safety is covered.
Yes, the necessary task gets done, but they control the timing or some aspect of it. It maintains their dignity, their role as a decision maker.
But couldn't that feel, I don't know, a bit manipulative, like you're just giving the illusion of choice?
That's a really fair question. And it can feel that way if the choices aren't genuine or if they feel condescending. The sources stress making it about how safety is achieved, not whether it is.
Okay.
You're not giving them the choice to, say, skip medication altogether. You're reinforcing that they are still directing their life, even with support. It's about preserving their role.
That makes sense. It's about respecting their agency within necessary boundaries. Okay, so structured choices. What else?
Second, using visual prompts. Things like checklists, schedules on the fridge, calendars with appointments clearly marked.
How does that help?
It reduces the need for constant verbal reminders, which can feel like nagging or lecturing. The list becomes the authority, not just the caregiver. It depersonalizes the prompt a bit.
Less confrontation.
Exactly. Third, pairing help with preferred activities. Link the less desirable task to something they enjoy.
Light.
If Mr. K loves his afternoon coffee break, maybe it's, hey, Dad, let's quickly check your blood pressure before we sit down for coffee. The focus shifts slightly towards the enjoyable activity that follows.
Kind of like a reward system, almost.
In a way, yes. And fourth, crucially, reinforce cooperation. We talked about accidentally reinforcing refusal. We need to consciously reinforce cooperation.
So when they do accept help or collaborate,
Acknowledge it. Use specific praise. Thanks, Mom. I really appreciate you letting me help with these bags. Makes things quicker. Make cooperation feel rewarding, not like giving in.
these strategies sound good in theory. Did the case studies show them working in practice?
They really did. With Mrs. T, her daughter stopped the verbal reminders about daily tasks. Those were triggering the old powerlessness feelings. Instead, a shared daily list on the fridge.
Visible, shared.
Yes, Mrs. T could see it, check things off herself. She felt in charge. The resistance dropped significantly because her daughter could support her in checking the list rather than telling her what to do.
She kept that feeling of control.
Hmm.
And Mr. K,
Similar idea. His daughter created a checklist with clear priorities for the week. Things like call pharmacy, schedule haircut.
appealing to his veteran sense of structure, maybe?
Perhaps. It allowed him to self-monitor his progress. He could see what needed doing, tackle it on his own terms, and feel that sense of accomplishment and independence. Again, less direct confrontation, more structure and autonomy.
And there's actual research backing this up, isn't there?
The sources mentioned a 2024 study, Hughes and Patel, and their finding really nails it.
Well, what did they find?
Basically, that resistance often reflects that need for perceived control, much more than just opposition to the task itself. And when you preserve autonomy through things like structured choice and predictable routines, cooperation goes up dramatically.
So it's not just a nice idea, it's behaviorally effective.
It works. It shifts the dynamic from conflict to collaboration.
Okay, so for everyone listening, the big takeaway here seems to be that, no, that resistance, it's carrying a message. It's almost never just about denying a need.
Right.
It's usually an attempt to hold on to control, or maybe even to seek connection in a roundabout way. We have to look past the behavior to the reason behind it.
Exactly. True care, supportive care has to be about collaboration, not control. It means becoming a bit of a detective. Looking for those patterns. When does the refusal happen? What comes right before it? What happens right after?
Using those ABCs we talked about.
Yes. Because once you see the pattern, you can start to build systems, checklists, choices, routines that support safety while fiercely protecting that person's independence and dignity. Ditch the word stubborn and pick up your magnifying glass instead.
I love that. Ditch stubborn, become a behavioral detective.
Uh,
Okay, and for you, the listener, we want to leave you with something to mull over. Think about this. When we shift our language away from commands like, you need to, or let me do that for you, which automatically imply a power imbalance,
Right.
and instead use collaborative phrases, simple things like, how about we tackle this together, or which part should we start with? How does that tiny shift in wording instantly change the feeling in the room? The power dynamic,
Yeah.
the level of trust.
It's fundamental, isn't it? That move from instruction to invitation.
Yeah, just think about the difference that makes.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We look forward to exploring the next set of sources with you soon.